The dog barked at the ice like something underneath it had just moved. Not once. Not wildly. One sharp bark every few seconds, precise and deliberate, while snow gathered across his black saddle fur and the mouth of the cave exhaled cold air that smelled faintly of rust and wet stone. Staff Sergeant Cole Mercer tightened his grip on the leash and stared into the frozen darkness ahead of them. Nothing moved inside. No flashlight. No voice. No tracks except their own. And yet Rex refused to back away. The wind screamed through the Smokies hard enough to rattle the pine branches overhead, carrying needles and powder snow across the ridge in silver sheets. Somewhere below the mountain, search teams were already retreating toward base camp before the storm swallowed the trails completely. They had maybe 40 minutes before visibility dropped to zero. "Rex," Cole said firmly. "Heel." The German shepherd did not obey. That alone made Cole's stomach tighten. Rex had followed commands under gunfire. In Kandahar, the dog once crawled through a burning vehicle because Cole told him to. But tonight, standing outside a frozen cave halfway up the Tennessee side of the Smokies, the shepherd planted his paws into the snow and let out a low growl that vibrated through the leash. Not aggressive. Warning. Cole swept his flashlight toward the cave entrance again. Jagged icicles hung from the rock overhead like crooked teeth. Snowmelt dripped slowly somewhere deep inside, each drop echoing with strange hollow rhythm. The cave looked untouched. "Dead. There's nothing in there," muttered Deputy Ranger Ben Holloway as he climbed the ridge behind them, breath steaming hard through his beard. "We already checked this sector at noon." Ben was 53, broad as an old oak stump, wearing a weather-faded ranger parka dusted white with snow. His flashlight beam crossed the cave mouth briefly, then moved on. "Storm's turning nasty. We need to go." Cole nodded automatically, but Rex barked again. One bark. Sharp. Focused. Then the dog lunged forward so violently the leash burned across Cole's glove. Snow sprayed backward beneath Rex's claws. "Easy," Cole snapped. Rex ignored him. The shepherd lowered his body close to the ground and shoved his nose against the ice lining the cave entrance, inhaling hard. Then he whined. Quietly this time. The sound hit something deep inside Cole's chest because Rex almost never whined anymore. Not since Afghanistan. Not since Noah. Cole pushed the memory away before it fully surfaced. "He smell something?" Ben asked. Cole hesitated. The easy answer was yes. But this wasn't how Rex worked scent trails. Not like this. His posture was wrong. Too tense. Too emotional. Almost desperate. Snow whipped harder across the ridge. The sky above the mountains had darkened into a bruised charcoal gray, swallowing the last weak traces of afternoon sunlight. In the distance, thunder rolled softly behind the peaks. A winter storm moving faster than forecast. Ben checked his radio. Static hissed back. "Search commands pulling everyone out," he said. "Kid's been missing 3 days already." Cole looked down at Rex. The German shepherd had gone still now, ears forward, eyes locked into the darkness beyond the ice. Waiting. Listening. Then came the sound. Faint. Metallic. Clink. Both men froze. It came from somewhere deep inside the cave, soft enough that the wind almost swallowed it. Like a chain brushing stone. Ben frowned immediately, probably shifting ice. But Rex reacted before the sentence finished. The shepherd barked violently and surged forward again, claws scraping rock beneath the snow. Cole's flashlight shook slightly in his hand as he aimed deeper inside. The beam disappeared into twisting black stone and curtains of frost. Nothing there. Nothing visible anyway. Then Rex began digging. Fast. Frenzied. Snow and loose ice exploded backward between his legs as he clawed at the right side of the cave entrance, directly beneath a shelf of frozen rock. "Rex!" Cole crouched beside him instinctively. The dog ignored him completely. Under the scraping sound of claws against ice came another noise. Softer. Hollow. Cole swept the light lower. Something pale was buried beneath the snowpack near the rocks. For one terrible second, he thought it was a hand. But when Rex tore away another layer of snow, the object rolled. Loose into the beam of light. A small silver bracelet. Child-sized. Tiny blue beads frozen solid against the metal chain. Cole's heartbeat slowed hard in his chest. Ben stepped closer, face tightening. "Jesus." The ranger knelt carefully and brushed ice away from the bracelet with trembling fingers. On the inside was an engraving almost hidden beneath frost. Lily, the missing girl. The wind roared across the mountain ridge loud enough to shake the trees, but inside the cave another sound emerged from the darkness beyond the ice. Not metal this time. Breathing. Thin. Uneven. Human. The sound came again. Thin. Fragile. Almost lost beneath the howl of mountain wind forcing its way through the rocks. Cole felt every muscle in Rex tighten beside him. The German shepherd stood perfectly still now, ears high, chest rising in slow, controlled breaths as he stared into the black throat of the cave. Not barking anymore. Listening. Snow swirled across the entrance behind them, sealing fresh powder over their boot prints almost as quickly as they formed. Deputy Ranger Ben Holloway grabbed Cole's arm hard enough to pull him halfway back. "You hear that?" Ben whispered. Cole nodded once. The breathing inside the cave shuddered faintly again, followed by a weak scraping noise somewhere deeper in the darkness. Human. Alive. Ben immediately reached for his radio. Static exploded from the speaker. Nothing else. Damn storm killed the signal. He looked toward the ridge behind them where the world had already faded into white haze. "We going fast. 5 minutes. No hero stuff." Cole barely heard him. His eyes had locked onto Rex. The dog had shifted posture again. Lower now. Slower. Careful. The way he used to move around buried explosives overseas. One deliberate step at a time. Cole swallowed hard as old memories brushed the edge of his mind like ghosts moving underwater. Afghanistan. Dust storms. Collapsed tunnels. Men calling for help beneath stone. He forced himself back into the present and clicked on the flashlight mounted to his jacket. The beam cut through drifting frost as the three of them moved inside. Cold air swallowed them instantly. The temperature dropped so sharply it burned Cole's lungs. Water dripped somewhere far below the cave floor in slow hollow taps that echoed like distant footsteps. The walls narrowed quickly around them, jagged limestone coated with sheets of pale blue ice that reflected the flashlight beams in strange fractured patterns. Every breath turned white in the dark. Rex moved first, silent, focused. His claws clicked softly against stone as he followed a scent invisible to the others. Then suddenly the dog stopped beside the wall. Cole nearly walked into him. "What is it?" Rex lowered his nose toward a narrow crack in the rock where snow had drifted inward through years of winter storms. Something was buried there. Cole crouched carefully and brushed ice aside with his gloved hand. Metal glinted beneath the frost. A flashlight. Old military issue. Its cracked surface was coated in frozen dust. The battery compartment rusted nearly shut. Ben frowned immediately. That does not belong to some lost hiker. Cole turned the flashlight slowly in his hand. Scratched into the side, almost worn away by time, were 4 letters. NM. His stomach tightened so hard it hurt. Noah Mercer. For a second the cave disappeared around him. He was 23 again, standing on a humid Georgia porch watching his older brother leave for deployment with that same flashlight clipped to his vest. Noah had laughed when Cole teased him for carrying old gear. "Reliable things stay reliable," he had said. Then he never came home. Cole stared at the initials without speaking. Ben noticed the shift in his face immediately. "Cole." Before he could answer, Rex growled low in his throat and pushed deeper into the cave. Fast this time. Urgent. Cole shoved the flashlight into his jacket and followed. The tunnel curved sharply downward, forcing them sideways through a narrow opening where the stone walls nearly scraped their shoulders. The smell changed deeper inside. Less like snow, more like damp fabric and old smoke. Then the beam from Cole's flashlight swept across something hanging from the ceiling. He froze instantly. Tiny strips of red cloth tied carefully to a cluster of jagged rocks. Improvised trail markers. Fresh enough that the color had not fully faded. Ben stepped closer, confusion spreading across his face. Who the hell marks trails in a cave? Cole touched one carefully. The fabric was stiff with ice, but not old. Days old maybe, not years. Rex barked once ahead of them. Sharp. Immediate. Then came another sound from deeper inside the cave. A cough. Weak. Human. Ben moved quickly now, boots splashing through shallow icy water. "Lily," he shouted into the darkness. No answer came back. Only breathing again. Slower now. Uneven. The tunnel widened suddenly into a larger chamber where the ceiling disappeared into shadow overhead. Cole swept his flashlight across the space and stopped cold. In the center of the chamber sat an old camping lantern beside a collapsed sleeping bag buried in frost. And next to it, half covered by snow, rested a military backpack with a faded United States Marine Corps patch stitched onto the side. Rex walked straight to it and sat down quietly. Then the German shepherd looked up at Cole with trembling amber eyes like he already knew what was inside. The backpack looked like it had been waiting there for years. Frost clung to the dark canvas in thick crystal veins, and the faded Marine Corps patch was barely visible beneath layers of ice and dust. Cole could not move for a second. The beam from his flashlight trembled across the bag while Rex sat beside it without making a sound. Not barking, not growling, waiting. Deputy Ranger Ben Holloway stepped carefully around a frozen rock shelf and crouched beside the pack. "This cannot be real," he muttered under his breath. Cole slowly knelt down. His gloves creaked against frozen fabric as he brushed snow away from the top flap. The smell hit him immediately. Old canvas, damp stone, smoke, and beneath all of it, something faintly familiar that reached backward through 11 years of grief like a hand in the dark. His brother's cedar shaving soap. Noah always carried bars of it in deployment because he hated the smell of military-issued detergent. Cole swallowed hard. "Cole," Ben said carefully, "we need to focus on the girl." He was right. Somewhere deeper in the cave, Lily Bennett was still breathing. Barely, and the storm outside was growing worse by the minute. Wind forced itself through the cave tunnels now with long hollow moans that sounded almost human. Snow drifted down from cracks overhead in soft white streams. The mountain was sealing itself shut. Rex suddenly stood. His ears twitched sharply toward the darkness ahead. Then the dog moved fast. Cole grabbed the backpack instinctively and followed while Ben swept his flashlight toward the narrowing tunnel ahead. "Lily," he shouted again. Nothing answered. Then came another cough. Weaker this time. Too weak. Cole's pulse spiked immediately. Hypothermia. They were running out of time. The passage sloped downward sharply, forcing them to move carefully over slick limestone coated with ice. Water pooled around their boots ankle-deep in some places, freezing cold and black as oil beneath the flashlight beams. Rex kept glancing back every few seconds as if making sure Cole stayed close. Then the tunnel opened again. Smaller this time. Lower. The ceiling dipped so close Cole nearly hit his head against stone. And there, near the far wall beneath a curtain of hanging ice, sat a tiny figure wrapped in an oversized green military jacket. Lily Bennett. Her skin looked pale beneath the flashlight glow, her blonde hair stiff with frost against her cheeks. She could not have weighed more than 60 pounds. Her small body trembled violently beneath the coat. But that was not what stopped Cole cold. Someone was sitting behind her. At first the figure looked like part of the stone itself. Frozen. Motionless. A man leaning against the cave wall with one arm wrapped protectively around the little girl, even in death. Cole's breath caught hard in his chest. The jacket. The broad shoulders. The old Marine boots half buried beneath frost. Rex walked slowly toward the figure with lowered ears and soft, careful steps. Then the German shepherd let out a sound Cole had not heard in years. A whimper. Quiet. Broken. Lily's eyes fluttered weakly toward the light. "Dog," she whispered faintly through cracked lips. He came back. Ben rushed forward immediately and knelt beside her. "Lily, stay awake for me, sweetheart. You hear me." Her eyes rolled weakly toward Rex instead. The little girl's fingers barely moved against the frozen sleeve around her shoulders. The man said, "The dog would find us." Cole stared at the frozen figure behind her. His flashlight drifted slowly upward across the man's chest where thick ice coated the old military jacket like glass. Then the beam caught metal hanging near the collar. Dog tags. Cole's stomach dropped. He moved closer before his mind could stop him. Every sound around him dulled beneath the pounding of blood in his ears. The cave. The wind. Ben calling for emergency blankets. All of it faded. His flashlight shook as he reached toward the tags hanging against the frozen jacket. The name beneath the ice was barely readable, but he already knew before he saw it. Noah Mercer. Cole stumbled backward slightly, as if the cave itself had tilted beneath him. 11 years. 11 years believing his brother vanished somewhere deep in the Smokies during a winter search operation that never made sense. No body. No answers. Nothing except silence and grief that never fully healed. And now here he was, sitting upright beside a terrified child in the dark like he had simply been standing watch all this time. Rex pressed himself against Noah's frozen boots and lowered his head onto the stone floor. Cole could not breathe properly. "How is this possible?" Ben whispered. No one answered. Then Lily's breathing changed. A weak, uneven rattle. Ben's expression tightened instantly. "Cole." His voice sharp and hard. "She is crashing." The storm outside thundered through the mountain like a freight train, and somewhere above them came the deep cracking sound of shifting ice. The crack above them sounded like a tree splitting in half. Ice dust rained from the ceiling in soft white clouds, and the cave groaned deep within the mountain like something ancient shifting in its sleep. Ben Holloway looked upward immediately. "We do not have much time," he said, voice low but urgent. "This chamber could collapse if that storm keeps pushing snow into the upper ridge." Lily Bennett shivered violently beneath the oversized military jacket wrapped around her tiny frame. Her lips had turned faintly blue now, and each breath sounded thinner than the one before it. Ben quickly pulled an emergency thermal blanket from his pack and wrapped it around her shoulders while checking her pulse with shaking fingers. "Weak," he muttered. "Too weak." Cole barely heard him. He was still staring at Noah, at the frost covering his brother's shoulders, at the frozen strands of dark hair beneath the ice. 11 years had passed, yet part of Noah still looked exactly the same, like the mountain had refused to let him disappear completely. Rex remained beside the body, unmoving except for the slow rise and fall of his chest. The German shepherd's amber eyes never left Noah's face. Cole crouched carefully near them, his knees hitting the wet stone hard enough to sting. His flashlight beam drifted across the old marine jacket again, across the frozen dog tags, across Noah's pale hand resting protectively over Lily's shoulder even after death. Then Cole noticed something strange. Noah's glove was torn slightly near the wrist, exposing part of his skin beneath the ice. And wrapped tightly around that wrist was a faded red cord bracelet. Cole froze. He knew that bracelet. Noah made those overseas during deployment from old parachute cord. He used to joke they were lucky charms for bad missions. Cole still remembered the night Noah tied one around his wrist before his first combat patrol. "So you remembered to come home," Noah had said. But this bracelet had something attached to it. A tiny silver key, no bigger than a house key. Cole frowned slowly. Why would Noah carry that all these years inside a cave? Rex suddenly stood and barked once toward the darkness behind them. Sharp. Immediate. Ben looked up fast. "What now?" The German shepherd moved several feet deeper into the chamber, toward a narrow crack in the stone wall almost hidden behind hanging ice. He began scratching at the ground again, urgent and focused. Cole followed with his flashlight. Buried beneath loose snow near the wall sat a small metal lockbox coated in frost. Cole stared at it in disbelief. Ben stepped closer immediately. "You are telling me your brother hid something down here?" Cole did not answer. His fingers shook as he reached for the silver key tied around Noah's wrist. For a second he hesitated. It felt wrong somehow, like disturbing a grave, like breaking the final thing Noah had been protecting. Another deep cracking sound echoed through the mountain overhead, louder this time. Snow spilled from the tunnel entrance behind them in long streams. Ben's voice hardened instantly. "Cole," he pointed toward Lily. "You need to decide right now. We either move her out while we still can, or we risk getting trapped in here." The words hit like cold steel because Ben was right. Every second mattered. Lily needed heat, medical care, oxygen. But Rex would not leave Noah. And part of Cole suddenly realized he could not leave him either. Not after 11 years. Not after finding him like this. Lily's weak voice drifted through the chamber. He stayed awake. Cole turned toward her immediately. Her eyes fluttered half open beneath the thermal blanket. "What?" he asked softly. Lily swallowed painfully. "The man, he kept talking to me so I would not fall asleep." Her breathing trembled. "He said, if the dog came back, then his brother would too." Cole felt the air leave his lungs. Ben stared at him silently. The storm outside roared louder now, wind forcing itself through the cave with violent shrieks that rattled ice from the ceiling. Rex barked again at the lockbox hidden near the wall. Once. Then he looked directly at Cole. Waiting. Cole finally slid the silver key free from Noah's frozen wrist and moved toward the box. His glove slipped slightly against the frozen metal as he pushed the key inside the rusted lock. For a moment nothing happened. Then the lock clicked open. Inside rested a weather-damaged notebook sealed in plastic, and beneath it, a satellite radio with one blinking green light. The tiny green light blinked steadily through the frost, like a heartbeat refusing to die. Cole stared at the satellite radio inside the lockbox while wind screamed through the cave behind them hard enough to shake loose sheets of ice from the ceiling. 11 years buried beneath snow and stone, and somehow the battery still lived. Ben Holloway looked, just as stunned. "That is impossible," he whispered. Cole grabbed the radio carefully with gloved hands. The casing was cracked along one side, scratched and worn from years underground, but the signal indicator still pulsed faintly green in the darkness. One bar. Weak, but alive. Rex stood close beside Noah's body, unmoving except for the slight twitch of his ears every time the cave groaned overhead. The dog looked exhausted now, his thick fur dusted white with snow and ice, but his eyes stayed fixed on Cole. Waiting. Cole pressed the transmit button. Static burst through the speaker first, loud and violent inside the chamber. Then silence. "This is Staff Sergeant Cole Mercer requesting emergency extraction," he said quickly. "We have one live child suffering severe hypothermia inside a cave north of Klingman's Dome Ridge. Repeat, one survivor alive." More static crackled through the radio. Ben held his breath. Then suddenly a voice answered faintly through the storm. Broken, distorted, but real. "Mercer, copy partial signal. Weather deteriorating. Nearest rescue bird 40 minutes out. 40 minutes. Ben closed his eyes briefly. She may not have 40. Lily shivered violently beneath the thermal blanket, small fingers barely moving now against the frozen fabric around her shoulders. Cole crouched beside her immediately and touched her cheek gently. Ice cold. Her breathing had grown dangerously shallow. "Lily." His voice softened instinctively. "Stay with me, okay?" Her eyelids fluttered weakly. The man said, "Mountains keep secrets," she whispered. Cole frowned slightly. "What man?" Her eyes drifted slowly toward Noah. "He told stories while the storm came." A cough shook her tiny body painfully. "Said the dog would remember the way." Rex lowered his head at the sound of her voice. Cole looked back toward Noah again. Questions piled over each other in his mind until they almost hurt. How had Noah survived long enough to protect Lily? Why did the satellite radio still work after all these years? And why had Noah hidden it instead of using it himself? Then Cole noticed the notebook inside the lockbox. Water-stained plastic wrapped tightly around it. He pulled it free carefully while Ben adjusted the thermal blanket around Lily's shoulders. The notebook cover was faded dark green military issue. On the front, written in black marker almost rubbed away by time, were two words. "If found." Cole's chest tightened. Slowly he opened it. The pages inside were warped and yellowed from moisture, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Noah's. The first entry was dated 11 years earlier. Snowstorm worsening. Lost radio contact near Western Ridge. Found unstable cave system during search. Possible shelter until weather clears. Cole turned the next page faster now. Search team separated. Avalanche closed lower trail. One civilian survivor located. Female, child approximately 8 years old. Hypothermic but conscious. Ben looked up sharply. "Another child?" Cole nodded slowly. Rex suddenly stood and growled low toward the tunnel entrance. The sound echoed sharply through the chamber. Then came another deep cracking noise from somewhere above them. Louder than before. Dust and ice rained down across the floor. Ben swore quietly under his breath. This mountain is coming apart. But Cole barely heard him. He kept reading. The handwriting grew rougher deeper into the notebook, shakier across the pages as if written with freezing hands. Child says she was not alone when storm hit. Says she heard someone calling deeper in cave system. No tracks found. We are not alone in here. Cole stopped breathing for a second. Ben stared at him across the dim flashlight glow. What does that mean? Before Cole could answer, Lily's weak voice drifted through the chamber again. Barely audible now. He went looking for the singing. Cole turned toward her immediately. What's singing? Lily's pale, eyes open halfway. Fear moved behind them even through exhaustion. At night, she whispered. You can hear it deeper in the mountain. Rex barked suddenly. Loud. Violent. Not toward the tunnel entrance this time. Toward the darkness farther inside the cave beyond Noah's body where the flashlight beams could not fully reach. Then, from somewhere deep beneath the mountain, came a sound that did not belong there. Soft. Distant. Almost like someone humming through the dark. The humming stopped the moment Cole pointed his flashlight deeper into the cave. Silence swallowed the chamber so completely that even the dripping water seemed to disappear for a second. Rex stood rigid beside Noah's body, ears high, every muscle locked tight beneath his frost-covered fur. Then the German shepherd slowly turned his head toward the narrow passage beyond the chamber wall. Waiting, watching. Cole felt the cold crawl higher beneath his jacket despite the sweat forming along the back of his neck. Ben Holloway looked shaken now. Tell me you heard that too. Cole nodded once without taking his eyes off the darkness. Lily's breathing rattled weakly beneath the thermal blanket. The singing, she whispered again. He followed it. Cole turned sharply toward her. Who followed it? Her pale lips trembled slightly. The man. Ben frowned immediately. Noah. Lily nodded faintly. At night, he heard somebody crying deeper inside the mountain. Cole's pulse quickened. He grabbed the notebook again and flipped through the remaining pages faster, flashlight trembling across Noah's handwriting. The entries became shorter near the end. Harder to read. Day 4. Child keeps hearing voice at night. I checked lower tunnel. No tracks. But Rex reacted near east chamber wall. Day 5. Found old mining shaft sealed behind ice collapse. Heard humming again around 2:13 a.m. Not wind. Someone is alive down here. Ben stared at the page. Alive for 11 years. No. Cole muttered quietly. That is not possible. But his voice lacked conviction. Rex suddenly moved. Fast. The dog pushed past the narrow crack in the chamber wall, where hanging ice concealed another tunnel, almost invisible beneath the frost. Then he barked sharply from inside the darkness. Once. Urgent. Cole grabbed the flashlight immediately and followed while Ben stayed beside Lily. 2 minutes, Ben warned. Then we move her whether we have answers or not. The tunnel beyond the chamber was narrow and steep, forcing Cole sideways through jagged stone slick with ice. The smell changed deeper inside. Less damp now. More stale. Trapped air. Then his flashlight beam struck. Something on the wall ahead. Marks. Hundreds of them scratched into the limestone. Tallies. Days counted one by one across the rock. Cole moved closer slowly. The scratches stretched farther than his flashlight could reach. Years of marks. His heartbeat slowed painfully inside his chest. Noah, he whispered. Rex stood near the end of the tunnel beside another frozen rockfall, where snow and stone sealed most of the passage shut. The German shepherd sniffed hard against a narrow opening near the ground barely large enough for air to pass through. Then Cole saw it. A tiny stream of warm breath curling through the crack into the cold cave air. Not wind. Breath. Human breath. Cole dropped to his knees instantly and shined the flashlight through the opening. At first he saw only darkness. Then movement. Someone was staring back at him from the other side. Cole recoiled hard enough to slam his shoulder against the cave wall. An eye. Human. Pale blue and terrified in the flashlight beam. Oh my God. The voice behind the rocks was weak and rough from disuse. Did Rex bring you? Cole's blood turned to ice. He knew that voice. Older now. Broken. But unmistakable. Noah. Silence trembled through the tunnel. Then the voice answered softly. Hey, little brother. Cole stopped breathing. The flashlight nearly slipped from his hand. His eyes darted backward instinctively toward the chamber where Noah's frozen body still sat holding Lily beneath the military jacket. His mind could not process what he was hearing. Impossible. Completely impossible. No. Cole whispered. No, I found you out there. I saw. That is not me. The voice interrupted weakly. Not exactly. Rex whined softly beside the rocks. Cole pressed closer to the narrow opening. Panic and confusion crashing together inside him. What are you talking about? A long silence came from the darkness beyond the collapse. Then Noah spoke again, slower this time. The man you found in the chamber was Daniel Vance. Cole frowned immediately. The name struck something buried deep in memory. Marine Corporal Daniel Vance. Noah's closest friend during the Smoky's rescue mission 11 years earlier. Officially listed missing beside him after the avalanche. Cole's stomach tightened. Daniel stayed behind with the child when the cave collapsed, Noah whispered. He gave her my jacket, my tags, told her stories about Rex because she was scared. Cole's knees weakened beneath him. Then where have you been? The answer came with quiet exhaustion that somehow hurt more than shouting ever could. Trapped on the other side of the collapse, for 11 winters. For a long moment Cole could not speak. The freezing stone beneath his knees felt unreal. The cave, the storm, the flashlight trembling in his hand. All of it blurred together beneath the weight of one impossible truth. His brother was alive. Somewhere beyond the collapsed wall, only inches away, breathing the same cold air after 11 years lost beneath the Smokies. Rex pressed himself against the narrow crack in the rocks and released a low, aching whine that echoed softly through the tunnel. On the other side, Cole heard a weak laugh. Fragile. Exhausted. He still does that when he misses somebody, Noah whispered. The sound of his voice nearly broke something inside Cole's chest. Older now. Thin from years of isolation. But still Noah. Still the same calm warmth that once carried him through every bad day growing up. Cole closed his eyes hard for a second as memories slammed into him all at once. Noah teaching him to fish at Lake Lanier before sunrise. Noah standing in the driveway polishing his marine boots while Rex chased pine cones through the yard as a puppy. Noah hugging him before deployment and saying, "Take care of the dog if anything happens to me." Cole had spent 11 years believing he failed that promise. Behind him the cave groaned again. Ice cracked sharply overhead. Ben Holloway's voice echoed from the chamber. "Cole, we have got maybe 15 minutes before this place starts coming down." Lily coughed weakly somewhere behind him. The reality of it crashed back instantly. There was no time. Cole leaned closer to the crack in the stone. "We are getting you out." Silence answered first. Then Noah spoke softly. "No, you are getting the little girl out." "Do not do that," Cole snapped. "Immediately. Do not start talking like a ghost." Rex barked once at the sharpness in his voice, then pressed his nose harder against the rocks. On the other side, Cole heard Noah shift slightly, followed by a strained breath that sounded painful even through the stone. "Listen to me," Noah said carefully. "The collapse behind me sealed the lower shaft years ago. I tried everything. There is no path out from this side." Cole's jaw tightened hard. "Then we move the rocks." "With what?" Noah asked gently. "Your hands." The question hung painfully between them. Snow drifted from cracks overhead again. Somewhere deeper in the cave came the long, grinding sound of shifting stone. The mountain was moving. Rex suddenly began scratching frantically at the collapsed wall, claws scraping against ice and limestone hard enough to splinter his nails. "Rex, stop," Noah called softly from the darkness beyond. Instantly the dog froze. Cole stared at him in disbelief. Even after all these years, Rex still obeyed Noah's voice before anyone else's. The German shepherd lowered himself slowly onto the icy floor and rested his head against the rocks with a quiet broken sound in his throat. Noah laughed faintly again. "Good boy." Cole felt tears sting behind his eyes before he could stop them. He had not cried when the Marines declared Noah missing. Not at the funeral with the empty casket. Not during the years afterward while his mother slowly stopped setting a plate for Noah at Christmas dinner. But hearing his brother call Rex that one last familiar way nearly shattered him. "How did you survive?" Cole asked quietly. The answer came after a long silence filled only by the storm. "Daniel found emergency food packs after the collapse," Noah said. "Water dripped through the lower shaft year-round. I kept waiting for rescue teams to hear the radio beacon." His voice weakened slightly. "After a while, I stopped believing they would." Cole swallowed hard against the ache in his throat. 11 winters alone beneath a mountain. No sunlight. No voices. Nothing except darkness and the memory of people who thought he was dead. "Why did you never stop using the radio?" Cole asked. Noah gave a tired breath that almost sounded like a smile. "Battery died years ago. The blinking signal you saw," he paused weakly. "That only came back tonight." Cole frowned. "What?" Another crack thundered through the cave overhead, louder now. Ben shouted again from the chamber. "Cole now." But Noah spoke before Cole could move. "I think Rex triggered it." Cole stared at the rocks silently. "What are you talking about?" "The old emergency unit ran on motion backup," Noah explained faintly. "Military prototype. Never fully tested." Rex lifted his head slowly at the sound of Noah's voice. It only activated when the sensor detected movement close enough. Cole looked down at the German shepherd, then back toward the darkness beyond the collapse. Understanding hit him slowly and all at once. Rex had not stumbled onto the cave by instinct. He had remembered. Somehow after all these years, through storms and distance and time, the dog had returned to the exact place where Noah still waited in the dark. The mountain gave another deep shudder beneath them, and this time part of the tunnel ceiling cracked open with a sharp snapping sound that echoed through the darkness like a rifle shot. Ice fragments exploded across the stone floor around Rex, forcing the German shepherd backward from the collapsed wall. Ben Holloway appeared at the mouth of the tunnel, carrying Lily in his arms beneath the thermal blankets. Her small body looked frighteningly still now except for the faint rise and fall of her chest. "Cole!" Ben shouted over the roar of wind forcing itself through the cave. "We move now, or we all die in here." Cole looked at his brother's hidden silhouette beyond the rocks. He could barely see Noah through the narrow crack anymore. Only one pale eye reflecting the flashlight beam in the darkness. 11 years apart, and this was all the mountain would give back. A voice through stone, a glimpse through ice. Rex pressed forward again with a low, desperate whine that sounded almost human. Noah spoke softly from the darkness. "Take the girl." Cole shook his head immediately. "I am not leaving you here again." "You are not leaving me," Noah answered gently. "You found me." The words hit harder than Cole expected. For years he carried guilt like extra weight on his spine. Every birthday Noah missed. Every Christmas his mother cried quietly in the kitchen after everyone else went to bed. Every nightmare where snow buried his brother deeper while Cole stood helpless above it all. But now, somehow, Noah's voice carried no anger, no blame, only exhaustion and peace that felt almost impossible after what he endured. Another section of ice crashed somewhere behind them. The cave floor trembled hard enough to throw loose stones down the tunnel. Ben tightened his grip around Lily protectively. "Cole, listen to me. Rescue teams are inbound. But if this tunnel seals shut, they will never reach any of us." Rex barked sharply, then turned suddenly toward the chamber entrance. Faintly, through the storm outside, came another sound. Helicopter blades. Distant, weak, but real. Hope moved through the cave like warmth for the first time all night. Ben's eyes widened instantly. "They found us." Cole grabbed the satellite radio again and pressed the transmit button hard. "This is Mercer. We have visual audio on the rescue bird. Marking our position now." Static crackled violently before the pilot's voice broke through. "Thermal picked up your signal flare. Conditions unstable. You have 8 minutes before whiteout closes the ridge completely." 8 minutes. Cole looked toward the collapsed wall again. Noah must have heard the transmission because he laughed quietly through the darkness. "Still cutting missions too close." Cole's throat tightened painfully. "I can get a crew in here. We dig you out." "No." Noah coughed weakly on the other side of the rocks. "Listen carefully." Rex lowered himself beside the wall again, ears pinned back. Noah's voice softened at the sound of the dog breathing near him. "Good old Rex." Cole wiped frozen moisture from his face with shaking gloves. "He never stopped looking for you." Silence lingered beyond the rocks for several seconds. Then Noah answered with a voice that sounded smaller somehow. "I know." Another tremor rolled through the cave. This one stronger. The narrow crack above the collapse widened slightly with a groan of shifting stone. Cold wind burst through the opening, carrying loose snow and darkness from deeper inside the mountain. Noah inhaled sharply behind the wall. "Cole, what?" A long pause followed. "There is something you need to understand." Cole frowned immediately. "What are you talking about?" Noah's breathing sounded uneven now. "Tired. The avalanche 11 years ago did not trap me alone." Cole froze. Rex lifted his head sharply. "What do you mean?" But Noah did not answer right away. Instead, he spoke softly to Rex through the rocks. "You stayed exactly where I told you to, did you not?" The German shepherd released another aching whine and pressed closer against the collapse. Cole suddenly remembered something from the old notebook. The strange entries. The humming. The feeling Noah described about never truly being alone beneath the mountain. Then Noah spoke again, quieter this time. "There was someone else down here with me after Daniel died." Cole's pulse slowed painfully. "Who?" Another silence. Heavy. Uneasy. Then Noah whispered the words that made the cold inside the cave feel suddenly deeper than winter itself. "That is the part nobody is going to believe." The helicopter reached them with less than 3 minutes to spare. Wind blasted through the cave entrance in violent waves as rescue crews lowered thermal stretchers onto the ridge above, their floodlights cutting pale beams through the snowstorm, swallowing the Smokies whole. Ben Holloway carried Lily out first, wrapped tightly beneath blankets and oxygen lines, while paramedics shouted over the roar of the storm. Her tiny fingers still clutched the sleeve of the old Marine jacket Daniel Vance had died protecting her with. She was alive. Barely, but alive. Cole stayed behind in the cave entrance with Rex pressed against his leg, staring one last time into the darkness where his brother remained trapped beyond stone and ice. The mountain groaned around them continuously now, low and thunderous, like something breathing beneath the earth. Cole, one of the rescue men, yelled from outside. You need to move now. But Cole could not yet. Not after 11 years. Not after hearing Noah's voice. Again, only to lose him a second time. He stepped closer to the collapsed tunnel while snow drifted through the widening cracks overhead. Noah, he shouted into the darkness. Silence answered at first. Then came a weak response. Still here. Rex immediately surged toward the rocks with a sharp bark and pressed his nose into the narrow opening where cold air escaped from the hidden chamber beyond. Cole knelt beside him. We are coming back with excavation crews. I swear to you. A faint laugh echoed softly through the stone. You always were stubborn. Cole closed his eyes briefly. You said somebody else was down there. Long silence followed. The storm outside screamed louder. Somewhere deep beneath the mountain came another distant sound. Not wind. Not shifting rock. Footsteps. Slow. Uneven. Moving somewhere far beyond the collapsed tunnel. Cole heard them clearly this time. So did Rex. The German shepherd stiffened instantly, ears forward, low growl vibrating deep in his chest. Then Noah spoke again, quieter now. Sometimes at night I hear someone walking the lower shaft. Cole's blood ran cold despite the freezing air. Who is it? Another silence. I never found out. The words lingered in the darkness heavily, uneasily. Then Noah continued with a voice so calm it somehow frightened Cole more. But every winter, right before storms, the humming starts again. Ice cracked violently overhead. One of the rescue workers grabbed Cole's arm hard. Now, Rex whined sharply toward the tunnel, refusing to move. Cole grabbed the dog's harness with both hands. Rex. The shepherd resisted for one heartbreaking second longer. Then from beyond the rocks Noah called softly. Go with him, buddy. Instantly Rex stopped pulling. The dog lowered his head slowly, then stepped backward away from the tunnel with quiet obedience that felt almost sacred after all these years. Cole stared into the darkness one final time. I will come back, he whispered. Noah did not answer immediately. Only the sound of his breathing drifted faintly through the crack in the stone. Then finally, barely audible beneath the storm, came the words Cole would carry for the rest of his life. You already did. The mountain trembled violently seconds later. Rescue crews pulled Cole and Rex out onto the frozen ridge just as part of the cave entrance collapsed behind them in an explosion of snow and ice. Helicopter floodlights swept across the storm while medics rushed Lily toward the aircraft. Rex stood beside Cole in the blizzard without moving, staring back toward the shattered cave entrance disappearing beneath falling snow. He did not bark. He did not whine. He only watched. Spring came late to the Smokies that year. Snow lingered high along the ridges even into April, melting slowly beneath cold Appalachian rain and pale morning sunlight. Lily Bennett survived. Doctors called it a miracle. She remembered only fragments afterward. A warm jacket. Stories in the dark. A man with tired eyes telling her that dogs always find their way home. Search teams returned to the mountain 3 times after the storm. They found Daniel Vance exactly where Cole first saw him, seated beside the stone wall, like a guardian frozen in time. But the collapse beyond the hidden tunnel sealed deeper than before. No trace of Noah Mercer was ever recovered. Some nights Cole still drives up to the Smokies alone with Rex asleep in the passenger seat beside him. Older now, gray beginning to touch the fur around his muzzle. They park near the ranger trail after midnight and listen to the wind moving through the mountains. And once, just once, during the first snow of December, Rex lifted his head sharply toward the dark tree line and wagged his tail at someone Cole could not see. Then somewhere far beyond the pines, deep beneath the sleeping mountain, a faint humming drifted through the cold. Deep in the frozen Smoky Mountains, a battle-worn Marine and his loyal German shepherd uncover a mystery buried beneath ice, silence, and 11 years of loss. When a missing little girl is found alive inside a collapsing cave beside a frozen Marine body, the search mission becomes something far more emotional and unforgettable. This cinematic journey of loyalty, sacrifice, survival, and Quiet Miracles blends emotional rescue drama with haunting suspense in the spirit of the most powerful animal stories. As the loyal K9 refuses to abandon the mountain, the former Marine is forced to confront the grief of losing his brother and the impossible truth hidden beneath the snow. Filled with chilling discoveries, emotional reunions, mysterious sounds in the darkness, and a bond between man and dog stronger than time itself. This is one of those animal stories that lingers long after the final moment fades. Through brutal winter storms, forgotten memories, and a cave hiding secrets no one can explain, the loyal German Shepherd proves that some promises never die and some souls never stop standing watch. Fans of emotional animal stories, heartfelt military dramas, and inspirational rescue journeys will be drawn into this unforgettable tale of faith, loyalty, and the strange mysteries hidden deep within the mountains. With cinematic storytelling, powerful emotional tension, and unforgettable moments between a Marine and his faithful K9 partner, this story captures why audiences continue to love deeply human animal stories centered on courage, healing, and hope. From the first bark in the snow to the final haunting sound beneath the mountain, this emotional adventure delivers the kind of heartfelt experience that makes animal stories impossible to forget.